Yo, what's up, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Tuesday, February the 25th. We're going to go position by position, talk about Tuesday's 7-game slate, hit on the plays that stand out to me the most looking at the slate on Monday night. These are my first looks, so we'll just kind of hit on what I'm liking the night before. We'll talk about Draftkings pricing. We'll switch over to Yahoo. We'll talk about some guys I do like over there as well. Just before we do get started, as always, I would appreciate it if you would hit that like button down below. Always appreciate the likes, guys. If you are new to the channel, if you have not subscribed yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos. Also, if you would like, you can follow me on Twitter. Link down below in the description is my Twitter, @DFSbyNoah. If you want to give me a follow over there, I would appreciate it. That's really my only social media, so if you ever want to stay in touch with me, if you ever need to contact me, you can do so on Twitter. Also, link down below is my Patreon. If you do want to check out some of the exclusive NBA content I have to offer over there, you can check out the Patreon, get access to my article that I write Monday through Friday. It's usually an 8 to 10 page long article breaking down the slate, highlighting all my favorite plays at each position. I provide updates to that article throughout the day as injury news breaks. I do give updated core plays over on Patreon that you can get access to, and we also have a Discord chat that you can join where we're talking through the slate. I'm in there throughout the day answering questions. Up until lock, I'll be answering questions as well. So check out the Patreon, hit the like button, subscribe, and let's go ahead and take a look at Tuesday's slate. We'll start off at point guard. So at the top, we do have LeBron James as our most expensive point guard on the slate. He is $10,700 in a matchup against the Pelicans. He's the second most player overall on the slate behind Giannis behind Giannis, who is the most expensive player at 11.6. So just looking at LeBron today, I do like him quite a bit in this matchup against the Pelicans. This is obviously a great spot, one of the best matchups you can get. We know this Pelicans team plays at a very fast pace. They're playing at the third fastest pace in the league. In terms of defensive rating, they have been improving a little bit on the defensive end, but they still do rank 23rd in defensive rating. Still a team you can attack, especially with how fast they play. This game right now, it does have the highest total on the slate at 238.5. We don't have a total yet for the Boston-Portland game, but I would imagine it's not going to be high, or that game's not going to have a 238 total. So this game's going to have the highest total on the slate. It's going to be a game we want to get exposure to. Obviously, on the Lakers side, we know where to target. It's going to be LeBron James. It's going to be Anthony Davis. Those are the guys we want to roster from the Lakers. I think given the savings, given salary, I do prefer Davis for a little bit cheaper, but you really can't go wrong with either guy. I think both guys are in great spots. Obviously, both guys are totally in play. Obviously, with no Damian Lillard, that makes LeBron the clear pay-up option at point guard if you do want to go to him. But there are some guys I like in the mid-range. There's some guys you could even go to for a little bit cheaper, specifically CJ McCollum. CJ McCollum, price tag coming up there a lot. He's up to $9K on DraftKings. But I still have a good amount of interest in CJ McCollum. While Damian Lillard remains out, CJ McCollum is just going to do all the heavy lifting. You look at the last two games that he has played without Lillard, 37 and 43 minutes. That game against Detroit, that was in regulation, so he played 43 out of 48 minutes, barely came off the court. 37 minutes in that game against the Pelicans, 50 DraftKings points and 76 DraftKings points. Those are the two games that he has put up with Lillard out. Even in a tough matchup against Boston, like at less than ideal spot, I still have a lot of interest in CJ McCollum. We will take a look at his numbers this season with Damian Lillard off the floor. They obviously look really good, and they're gonna look even better now that he's had these two big games without Lillard. 34% usage rate on the season with him off the floor, averaging 1.23 fantasy points per minute, near 30% assist percentage. Like, CJ has massive upside here. He's got 30 and 10 upside, easily can go for 30 and 10, and can pick up rebounds as well. I mean, he nearly triple-doubled last game against Detroit. He was 1 rebound shy of a triple-double, 4 rebounds shy of a triple-double against the Pelicans. Like, even at 9K, I still think CJ McCollum is a really good option today. I like him a lot, though, over on Yahoo. If we look at his Yahoo price, he is still way too cheap over on Yahoo. He's only $35 at shooting guard. He's he's $7 cheaper than Zach LaVine. He's nearly the same price as Drew Holiday. He's the same price as guys like Kyle Lowry, only $1 more than De'Aaron Fox. Like, I prefer CJ McCollum over all those guys. I will definitely be looking to build around CJ McCollum on Yahoo. Just like I said, still way too cheap. He should be like $40, $42, so you're still getting him at a massive discount over there. On DraftKings at 9K, he's not a must-play by any means, but definitely going to be a guy I have in my builds If I'm playing multiple lineups, he's going to be in my player pool for sure. If I'm only making one lineup, I don't know if I get to CJ McCollum in that one lineup. Just kind of depends on maybe if any value opens up. But I would not rule him out at all. If I'm building out my one lineup, my single entry team, and I got 9K left for a guard or a util, I'm not going to look to rearrange my lineup. Like, I'm fine plugging McCollum in there. So, like him a ton, even in a tough spot against Boston. Like, this guy still has massive upside with Lillard off the floor and can pay off a 9K price tag. I mean, we've seen him do it the last 2 games, 50 DraftKings points. He could easily get that today, and that's pretty good for 9K. So I like CJ a lot. Guys like Kyle Lowry, Chris Paul, probably won't be going to these guys. Drew Holiday, just don't feel like I'm going to be going to this mid-range a ton. If I was going to play one guy in this mid-range, it would be De'Aaron Fox at 7,600 against the Warriors. I do like that matchup quite a bit. 7,600 just feels like too cheap of a price tag for De'Aaron Fox. This guy's been disappointing as of late, just his last 3 games. Only 29, 37, 36 DK points, but he still has 45, 50-point upside. Can easily pay off this price tag, especially in this matchup. I do prefer him over guys like Jamal Murray. I think I'd prefer him over Drew Holiday. Holiday did put up a massive game against the Lakers. I think it was the first time they played, he had like 50 DK points against them. Now that the Lakers are fully healthy, or not the Lakers, but the Pelicans. Now the Pelicans are fully healthy with Zion healthy, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, all those guys healthy. It's going to be tough to like figure out when Drew's going to put up those big games. I mean, he's been really good as of late. Even in that game against the Warriors where all those guys were healthy, I mean, Drew still put up a monster game, had 56 DraftKings points, played 38 minutes. Like, he's been better as of late. He's been more consistent. It's not the best spot against the Lakers. He's still in play, though. I think I would prefer De'Aaron Fox for a little bit cheaper. I'd probably play Drew Holiday, though, over guys like Kyle Lowry and Chris Paul. Like, if I was going to play one of those 3 guys, I'd go with Drew. But overall, my favorite guard in that 7K range is most likely going to be De'Aaron Fox at 7,600. You could go to Lonzo at 7K against the Lakers. I'm fine with that in the mid-range. Guys like Eric Bledsoe, Fred VanVleet, like, I don't feel like I'm going to be going to these guys. Marcus Smart, I think, is still in play at 6,100. We do already know that Kemba Walker is going to be out again. With Kemba out the last 2 games, Smart's played really well, played big minutes, 35 and 36 minutes, 31 DraftKings points in both games. Pretty much going to give you a 25 to 30-point floor. He's shown he has like 40-point upside, and whenever he plays without Kemba, when you take Kemba off the floor, Smart does average about a fantasy point per minute. So he still projects pretty well for $6,100 salary. This is a great matchup against Portland. Portland terrible defensively this season, towards the bottom of the league in defensive rating. They're 27th. In terms of pace, they do play at a pretty fast pace. They are 11th in pace on the season. So I like Marcus Smart a lot. We'll talk about Jaylen Brown later on in the video. I think I do prefer Jaylen Brown for a little bit more, but Smart is definitely in play for sure. Tomas Satoransky had a very bad game. I think it was Sunday. Yeah, Sunday against Phoenix. He really disappointed, or maybe it was Saturday against Phoenix. He really disappointed, and then he bounced back in a big way. That was Monday against. He played, Sunday. So Sunday against Washington, he had a monster game. 39 minutes, 48 DraftKings points. He really disappointed though Saturday against the Suns. Like, only put up 7 DK points in 23 minutes, but then bounced back in a huge way with 48 DK points in 39 minutes. Sato has shown upside when he gets the minutes, and without all these guys for the Bulls, like no Chris Dunn, no Otto Porter, no Denzel Valentine, there's even more guys out in the front court. Like Wendell Carter's questionable, but we know Luke Cornett still expect to be out. Markkanen still expect to be out. I think Satoransky's pretty much locked into about 30 to 32 minutes a night. If he's playing well, he has the potential to play more. I mean, he got 39 minutes against Washington. At 5,700, I don't think that's really point chasing if you go to Satoransky. I still think he's in play at 5,700. But just choosing between him and Kobe White, I think I would rather roster Kobe White for a little bit cheaper. I do like Kobe White quite a bit. 5,600 on DraftKings. Looking over to Yahoo and their pricing, you have Kobe White at $17. I believe he's $1 less than Sato over on Yahoo, so I would prefer him there as well. We can take a look at his usage just as of late. He's been playing at a very high level as of late. We'll look at his numbers just the last 2 weeks because they have been really good. We'll go to date range, go the last 2 weeks, and then we'll run the query. You're going to see guys like Sato have really good numbers, Kobe White have really good numbers because they've been playing like without all these guys for the Bulls. These are the kind of guys that are getting like most of the run. This is pretty much their rotation as of late. We could take Cornett and Hutchison off the floor because both those guys are going to be out. We'll probably get a really small sample size, but even in 132 minutes just the last 2 weeks for in playing time, or near 27% usage rate for Coby White, averaging 1.15 fantasy points per minute, 15% assist percentage, still really good numbers. He's a very high usage player. He's a guy that's kind of scoring dependent, which is a little bit risky. Like, one of the reasons he's somewhat risky to roster is because he is scoring dependent. He doesn't really contribute with assists or rebounds, but I mean, he's going to take a ton of shots. He's getting the minutes right now, playing 34, 35 minutes, even coming off the bench. They're giving Coby White a ton of run. With all these guys out for the Bulls, that solidifies White's minutes. That means he's most likely going to be in the closing lineup over guys like whoever starts. Like Ryan Arcidiacono probably won't be in the closing lineup. Daniel Gafford probably won't be in the closing lineup. Like, they can close with Thaddeus Young at center. So if it's a close game, you're most likely going to have Satoransky, White, Young, and Zach LaVine on the floor, and then either a guy like Arcidiacono, maybe Gafford, maybe Shaq Harrison will close out the game. But those 4 guys are definitely going to be on the floor if it's a close game and it's coming down to the wire. So I think we can still expect Coby White to play about 32 to 34 minutes off the bench. The scoring's going to be tough to predict. It's not the best spot against OKC. OKC does have some pretty good defensive guards, but I think Coby White still has massive upside for this salary. I mean, he's gone for 40-plus Draftkings points, or 39-plus Draftkings points in 3 of his last 4 games, so he's shown the upside. I still like him quite a bit. I think he does stand out in that mid-range at point guard. Him and Sato, I think, are both pretty good options from the Bulls today. But then other point guards, one of the injuries we need to watch at this position is Bruce Brown. He's currently questionable. If he were to sit, that would maybe make a guy like Derrick Rose more appealing. But Derrick Rose has been really bad as of late. Even in 28 minutes, he only put up 20 Draftkings points in their last game. Just been really disappointing. 19 DK points in 23 minutes against Milwaukee. Even if he plays close to 30 minutes, his production's been down. I think his usage has been down as well. Maybe makes him a little bit of a risky option. If Brown were to sit, though, that would make me feel a little bit more confident in D. Rose's minutes. So he could be a guy you look to. Victor Oladipo is questionable as well. If he were to sit, someone like Aaron Holiday would become a really good option. Holiday played 32 minutes in that game against the Raptors. That was a game where they lost by 40 points. I mean, they got blown out. I imagine Holiday got blowout run if he played 32 minutes. I think with Jeremy Lamb now done for the season, if Oladipo's out as well, that should solidify Holiday for probably 30 to 32 minutes again. Really good matchup against even though it's a slow-paced Charlotte team, this is a team that does play really bad defense. I mean, if you look at defensive rating this season, the Hornets are towards the bottom of the league. They do rank 26th in defensive rating. So it's a slow-paced game, but still a bad defensive team they're going up against. I have some interest in Aaron Holiday if Oladipo's out. Aaron Holiday is very cheap on Yahoo. He's minimum salary, so keep an eye on Oladipo's status. If he's out, definitely get some Aaron Holiday over on Yahoo at just $10. But I think that's probably it for point guard. So let's go ahead and move over to shooting guard now. At this position, if I'm paying up, I talked about the guys I mainly like. CJ McCollum at $9K, Drew Holiday at $7,900. You could look to. I'd prefer McCollum over LaVine today. I'd prefer Holiday over Wiggins. However, Jaylen Brown, he's a guy that I like quite a bit. $6,600 on DraftKings, definitely stands out at that salary. Looking over to Yahoo and at their pricing, you have Jaylen Brown at $27. I do like him a lot over there as well. So just with Kemba Walker out the last few games, Jaylen Brown has played really well, been putting up consistent fantasy numbers, 33 and 39 minutes, 39 and 38 DraftKings points. With Kemba out, Jaylen Brown does get a little bit of a boost, a small bump in his usage percentage. He averages about a fantasy point per minute with Kemba off the floor. I think he gives you a little bit more upside than Marcus Smart, so that's why I do slightly prefer him over Smart today. You can't go wrong with either guy, but I do prefer Brown. I like the matchup a lot for these Boston guys. I mean, Portland's just been so bad defensively. They play pretty fast. This game does have a pretty high total, or no, this game doesn't have a total yet, but I imagine it's probably going to come in around 225, 227 if I had to guess, somewhere in that range. So I like some of these Boston guys. I don't think their price tags have caught up just yet. I think Brown, with Kemba out, he should be 72, 7,300. Marcus Smart should be 64, 6,500. So you're still getting a little bit of a discount on both these guys. I do prefer Brown, but like I said, both are in play. The big injury we'll have to watch here is Victor Oladipo. If he plays, I really don't have any interest in him, but if he's out, we talked about Aaron Holiday. I would like Aaron Holiday quite a bit. Marcus Smart, I mentioned, I like him at 6,100. Draymond Green missed the last game. That'll allow a guy like Damian Lee to produce pretty well. 35 minutes against the Pelicans, 37 DraftKings points. Not as good of a spot here against Sacramento. Sacramento doesn't play as fast as the Pelicans do, but there's potential that Damian Lee is able to get up more shots with Draymond out, maybe gets to handle the ball a little bit more. At 5,600, he would be a fine option. I'd prefer guys like Kobe White, Satoransky at a similar price, but still you could consider Damian Lee. Will Barton still remains a little bit too cheap. This is going to be a guy that gives you 30 to 35 DraftKings points most nights. He's going to play about 30 to 32 minutes most nights. At 5,500 against the Pistons, a pretty good matchup. Although the Pistons play slow, they're really bad defensively, so you could definitely consider Will Barton at 5,500. Talked about Aaron Holiday, who I have a little bit of interest in, or I would have a good amount of interest in. If Oladipo's out, you could go to him. Kent Bazemore's coming off a monster game, but I doubt I'd chase that. I'll probably just look elsewhere, especially if people are going to chase that game. Yeah, I think that's probably it for shooting guard. Arcidiacono, I know he's been starting recently, but yeah, the fantasy production hasn't been there. 21 minutes, 18 DraftKings points. Like even at 3,300, probably don't need to go there on a 7-game slate. I'm sure better value will open up as the day goes on. Maybe if Bruce Brown is out, then you could go to a guy like Svi Mykhailiuk. His minutes have been kind of up and down, but if Bruce Brown were to sit, I think that would solidify Mykhailiuk for probably like 26 to 28 minutes if I had to guess. 3,100 be a fine value. But let's go ahead and move on to the small forward position. So talking about Jason Tatum at the top for 8,800. Tatum has just been on an absolute tear as of late. You look at the game log, 50-plus DraftKings points in 3 straight games, playing huge minutes right now, getting a lot of usage with Kemba out. He does see a nice bump in his usage percentage when you take Kemba off the floor this season. We will look at the numbers just real quick so you guys can see. I think he sees the biggest spike in usage on the team, and he averages like 1.4 fantasy points per minute or like 1.3, somewhere around there. 1.31 fantasy points per minute with Kemba off the floor this season for Tatum. 32.5% usage rate, 15.5% assist percentage, near 12% total rebound percentage. Sees a over 4% bump in usage, so I definitely have interest in Jason Tatum. He's expensive. I mean, he's nearly 9K. He's 8,800 on DraftKings, but this is a fantastic matchup against Portland. I mean, if he's going to be guarded by Carmelo Anthony, that is a matchup that Tatum should just absolutely feast in. When you look at guys at other positions, I think I would rather roster C.J. McCollum for just 200 more. Maybe I'd probably rather roster Whiteside for a couple hundred more. But looking at guys like Levine, Siakam, Lowry, Chris Paul, I'd prefer Tatum over all those guys. Sabonis is in a great spot, but I think I'd probably prefer Tatum over Sabonis today. So I still have a good amount of interest in Tatum. I just don't think he's going to be a guy that I prioritize now that he's up to 8,800. It's hard to consider him like a core play or a must play at that salary, but still in play for sure. If you're playing multiple lineups, you definitely want to have exposure to Jason Tatum. Gordon Hayward as well should benefit with Kemba out. Hasn't been as productive, doesn't have nearly the same ceiling that a guy like Jason Tatum does, but he's also $1,400 cheaper. I'd probably rather roster Jaylen Brown for cheaper. I'd rather roster Marcus Smart for cheaper. So Hayward would be like my 4th favorite Celtic today. But depending on how many lineups you play, I could see getting exposure to him. One guy, though, that has burned me as of late, and I'm probably just going to keep going back to him. I'm going to go back to him again. I mean, 6,800 for Brandon Ingram is just way too cheap for the upside this guy has. We'll take a look at his numbers this season. I know his numbers as of late hasn't been great, but on the season, this guy still has near 30% usage, averaging about 1.25 fantasy points per minute. With the Pelicans fully healthy, I don't expect Ingram to be a 30% usage player moving forward. But on the season, he's averaged about 1.23 fantasy points per minute, 28.7% usage rate, near 20% assist percentage. When the Pelicans are fully healthy, like I said, I don't think he's going to be a guy that drops 45, 50 DK points every night. He's going to be much more inconsistent. Guys like Lonzo, Drew Holiday, Ingram, Zion, these guys are going to be harder to predict when they're going to put up the big games. But at 6,800, even if Ingram has a bad game, like a floor game, and only puts up 35 DK points, that's not killing you at 6,800. And obviously there's upside for him to go for 40, 45, 50 DK points. He's got that kind of upside in him. I know a matchup against the Lakers usually isn't a matchup we go out of our way to target. But, this game does have a 238.5 total, the highest on the slate. I think this game can stay close. I think the Pelicans can hang with the Lakers. I really like getting exposure to this game. I like a lot of plays on both sides. Well, mainly the Lakers. I like just LeBron and AD. But on the Pelicans, I think all the main Pelicans are in play. And Brandon Ingram at his DraftKings salary of 6,800 is one of my favorite plays in the mid-range of small forward. He's burned me the last two slates. I've played him on DraftKings in my main lineup the last two slates. It hasn't worked out. I'm going to go right back to him today. If he burns me again, then so be it. If he's cheap on the next slate, I'll probably play him again. Like, the guy still just has massive upside. He's going to play huge minutes if it's a close game, and this is a game that should be close. We should expect Ingram to probably play 34 to 36 minutes, which is easily enough time for him to pay off this salary. So really like Brandon Ingram. I think I do prefer him over Hayward. When you factor in he's 600 less, I definitely would rather roster him over a guy like Buddy Hield. With Jeremy Lamb now out and maybe Oladipo out as well, that should solidify minutes for TJ Warren. At 6,800 or 6,200, I could see using TJ Warren today. He had been on a sort of a heater, 52 and 48 DK points against Milwaukee and the Knicks. Then really disappointed against Toronto, only 15 DraftKings points in 29 minutes. I would expect a bounce back game from him today, especially if Oladipo were to sit. That would solidify more usage and should solidify the minutes for TJ Warren. We already know that Jeremy Lamb's going to be out for the season. So I do have some interest in him at 6,200. In this 5K range, you got Will Barton. You could play at 5,500. Harrison Barnes, usually never a guy that I go out of my way to play, but he's getting huge minutes right now. Been very productive with 30-plus DraftKings points in 4 of his last 5 games. I mean, he's playing like 38, 39 minutes a night. If this game's close, which it should be against the Warriors, he's probably going to play 36 to 38 minutes. So at 5,300, like, you can definitely go to Harrison Barnes at that salary, especially if he's going to continue to get these monster minutes. I do have some interest in him. If Draymond Green remains out, Eric Pascal is a guy you could go back to. He was another guy that burned me on the last slate. He was really cheap, only 4,400. Really disappointed. He got the start, played 31 minutes against the Pelicans, but only had 20 DraftKings points. I assume if Draymond's out again, Pascal probably starts again and plays about 32 to 34 minutes. I know he was in some foul trouble in that game, which kind of limited his minutes. If we're going to get like 34 minutes from Pascal at 5K, he's totally in play at that salary. If you do want to go back to him, I would definitely get some exposure to him if Draymond's out again. But then under 5K, if you're looking for cheap values at small forward, if Draymond's out, I think Juan Toscano-Anderson becomes a really good option at 4,100. He's been really good as of late for the Warriors. Played 25 and 28 minutes the last 2 games. I think one of the reasons he got 25 minutes against Houston was because of blowout. I mean, they lost that game by 30 points. And then one of the reasons he got 28 minutes against the Pelicans was because Draymond was out. If Draymond is out again, he's questionable right now. If he's out again, I think Toscano-Anderson probably plays about 25 to 30 minutes. He's been a really productive player, especially as of late when he gets the minutes. So at 4,100 would still be a pretty good value option you could consider from the Warriors. Even if the game blows out, he's still going to be out there in the blowout. So I do feel pretty good about him at that salary. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and move on to power forward. We'll look at this position. So you got Giannis at the top, 11,600 against the Raptors. This isn't the best spot for the Bucks. This is a back-to-back for them. They did have an overtime game against Washington, which, I mean, was so tilting. That game was just so tilting overall on Monday night. I rostered a ton of Giannis, and he just really disappointed. He only had like 35 or 40 fantasy points. I can't remember what his final line was. That game went into overtime, but Giannis didn't even get to play in the overtime period because he fouled out in 24 minutes or something. Just so frustrating. Because he played 24 minutes, I would expect he's a full go today, even though it is a back-to-back. It's a tough matchup against Toronto, like I said, but this is a spot where you would expect the game to be close and Giannis plays his full allotment of minutes. When he gets 34 to 35 minutes, possibly 36 minutes, like, Giannis has shown massive upside this season. He dropped 77 DK points on the Raptors when they played earlier this season. He played 36 minutes in that game. Like, this is a kind of game where you would expect Giannis to play probably 34 to 36 minutes. He's expensive, 11,600, so he's not a must-play today. It's a 7-game slate. There are other stud options, but definitely one of the top studs in my opinion. However, I would probably prefer to roster AD in a much better matchup. AD is also $1,300 less than Giannis. Really hard not to like Anthony Davis in this spot against the Pelicans. I talked about LeBron earlier and how much I like LeBron. I have a ton of interest in AD as well, though. I mean, we've talked about it throughout this video and in the past videos. One of the best matchups you can get is against the Pelicans. They play at the 3rd fastest pace in the league. Like I said earlier, their defense has been improving, but they still rank 23rd in defensive rating all this season. This is a matchup that AD has had a ton of success in this season, averaging 67 DraftKings points per game through 2 games against the Pelicans. I do expect now the Pelicans have Zion, that's going to make their defense a little bit better, especially a guy like Zion can defend Anthony Davis. I know the last time these teams played, I think Brandon Ingram was out, if I'm not mistaken, so like Anthony Davis was being guarded by like Mccollum and stuff, so you would expect him to do well there. Even if it is Zion, Derek Favors, whoever guarding him, I mean, AD is matchup proof. The dude has monster upside. If it's a close game, which this game should be, AD is going to play 36 to 38 minutes. He's got 70-point upside in this spot. I love him here against the Pelicans. Highest total game on the slate. Should be a fast-paced game. Should be a lot of points scored. He's my favorite stud on the slate when you factor in salary. I do prefer him over Giannis for $1,300 less. I prefer him over LeBron for a little bit cheaper. Jokic is $10K. I think I would rather roster AD for just a little bit more. Really hard not to like AD in this spot. Then you have a guy like Sabonis, who I think is definitely appealing for tournaments. It's hard to consider him a core play or a cash play, especially when you have guys like AD. You have Jason Tatum in a great matchup for a little bit cheaper. But hard to not like Sabonis against the Hornets. We know how bad this Hornets team is defensively against bigs. This is a matchup I've targeted all season, power forwards and centers against the Hornets. We will talk about Myles Turner when we get to center. I do like Myles Turner a lot at his salary. Sabonis I do have some interest in. If I'm playing multiple lineups, he will definitely be in my player pool. But if I'm only playing one lineup, I doubt I get to Sabonis in my one lineup. I think just straight up, I would probably roster Jason Tatum for a little bit cheaper. I'd roster Tatum over guys like Siakam. Zion, maybe you could target at 8K against the Lakers. Not the best matchup, but this could be a spot where Zion probably gets 32 to 34 minutes. I mean, he finally got some good minutes last game against Golden State, played 33 minutes, had 41 DraftKings points. I think as he gets more time, he's going to see his minutes slowly start to ramp up. I think most nights, Zion's probably going to play about 32 to 34 minutes. So he's fine at 8K. I'd probably rather roster some of the other guys we've already talked about. But looking at options I haven't mentioned, not really much stands out here in the mid-range. Carmelo Anthony's been playing really well with Damian Lillard out, but now that he's up to 6K on DraftKings, I don't really consider him a core play or a must-play at that salary. I talked about Harrison Barnes. I do have a good amount of interest in him at 5,300, just getting huge minutes right now. In terms of value, though, at power forward, I mean, there's really no cheap options I see here. If Draymond's out, you could play Toscano Anderson at 4,100. But I think we covered everything for power forward, so let's go ahead and hit on the center position real quick just before we end the video. So at center today, looking at the top, you have Nikola Jokic, 10K against Detroit. I like Nikola Jokic today. I just can't roster him over a guy like AD. I think AD's in a much better spot, faster paced game. You expect that Pelicans and Lakers game to have way more points scored than this game. So Jokic won't really be a priority for me. He's in play against Detroit. I mean, whether it's Thon Maker or Christian Wood out there guarding him, like that's going to be a matchup that Jokic easily wins. I just prefer some other guys today. Same with someone like Whiteside. I just rather roster AD. I don't see Whiteside being a guy I prioritize. I'd probably rather roster Whiteside over Sabonis. But then when you look at others like other positions and the pricing of other positions, you have like McCollum at 9K. I'd probably prefer McCollum over Whiteside today. So really don't see myself paying up for the center position. I don't think I'm going to be going to the guys at the top a ton. I think this position has some good mid-range options. Steven Adams been playing really well recently. Now he gets a really good matchup against the Bulls. He's only 6,700, which kind of seems expensive, but you just look at his game log as of late. Been really consistent. I know game logs don't mean everything, but 35 plus DraftKings points in 4 straight games, getting about 28 to 32 minutes. Only played 27 minutes against the Spurs, but a lot of that had to do with blowout. They won that game by 28 points. I think if this game is close against the Bulls, which it should be, Steven Adams probably plays about 30 to 32 minutes. With how good this matchup is, with how thin the Bulls front court is, I expect them to be very bad defensively like they have been all season against centers. So a really good matchup for Steven Adams. Definitely wanted to hit on him at 6,700. But then when you get down to this 5K range, one injury to watch is Brook Lopez. He was out Monday night. We saw Robin Lopez get the start. Robin Lopez is still really cheap. He's 3,200 on DraftKings. I'm not sure what he finished with Monday night. I did have a good amount of interest in him. I think he had like 20 DraftKings points with like 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, so he was on his way to hitting value. If he starts again with Brook Lopez out, then at 3,200, I didn't mean to skip down to value, but we'll hit on Lopez more when we get there. But we'll need to watch the status of Brook Lopez as he was out Monday night. Marquise Chris also questionable. He was out last game, and we saw Kevon Looney get the start at center, but Looney only played like 20 minutes, so I really don't have any interest in him. One guy, though, that I do want to talk about in this mid-range is Myles Turner. I like Myles Turner a lot in the spot against Charlotte. This is a guy that I rarely roster just because it feels like he's never a guy you feel like you have to have. Even on his good days, I mean, you're getting probably like 35 to maybe 40 DK points from Turner if he puts up like a really big game. But this matchup is just so good. It's really hard for me not to have interest in Turner at a 5K salary. It's a matchup he's had a lot of success in this season. Through 2 games against Charlotte, he has averaged 38 DraftKings points per game against them. We know how bad this Charlotte team is against bigs. In terms of rebounding, I know Turner isn't like an elite rebounder, but the Hornets do rank 26th in rebound percentage this season. I mean, this could be a spot where he puts up a double-double, gets you maybe 3 or 4 blocks. We know Myles Turner can block a lot of shots. He's averaged 4 blocks per game against the Hornets, so he's been able to block a lot of shots against them when they've played this season. I think there is 40-point upside for Myles Turner today. I don't think he's going to get much ownership either. And if this game's close, he's going to play 30, 32 minutes, potentially more. I like the upside for Myles Turner at this salary, so definitely have interest in him on DK as sort of a center value play. We might get some better value open up as the day goes on Tuesday, but right now, there aren't a ton of great like punt plays, 5K and below today, so Turner's definitely someone that stands out at the center position. I think you could also go to Daniel Tice for 4,900. They're going to need him out there to defend Hassan Whiteside. I expect him to play pretty big minutes, so you could look to him as a value as well. Harry Giles, though, I do want to talk about. 4,400 on DraftKings. Price tag came up a good amount, but got 32 minutes last game against the Clippers. Had a really good game, put up 35 DraftKings points. After that game, he was getting a lot of praise from Luke Walton. It seems like they want to give Harry Giles minutes. He's played 25 and 32 minutes the last 2 games. With the price coming up on DraftKings, he's not a must-play by any means, but he is very cheap over on Yahoo. I have a lot of interest in him over there. He's only $11 at center, almost near minimum price. I think if I'm going to get exposure to Harry Giles today, it's going to be over on Yahoo. Now, we don't know what his minutes are going to look like. They've gave this guy big minutes before, and then the next game, like he played 27 minutes against the Spurs, and then the next game he played 15 minutes. I think there's been other situations before where he's played bigger minutes. I mean, yeah, like 20. Well, that was kind of a blowout, but 21 minutes, then 6 minutes the next game. Like he played 31 minutes against the Clippers. Who knows if they give him 30 minutes again? But he's still starting with Rashawn Holmes and Marvin Bagley still out. Like they really don't have any other bigs they can turn to. Now, obviously, this game against the Warriors could go small, especially if like Marquise Chris were to be out. Like we could see them playing Draymond Green a lot at center, assuming he's able to play. So maybe Harry Giles doesn't play 32 minutes again, but if he gets even 25 to 26 minutes, he's been a fantasy point per minute player this season. When he gets the minutes, he can produce. And in this matchup against the Warriors, a bad defensive team, I do expect him to produce when he's on the floor. So I like him quite a bit at $11 on Yahoo. I think at 4,400 on DraftKings, he's a fine option, but more interested in him on Yahoo. And then I guess we can hit on Robin Lopez real quick. So if Brook Lopez is out, I think Robin Lopez makes for a pretty fine value play. Started Monday night against the Wizards. Not really sure what his final line was, but I'm pretty sure he is going to finish with like 25 DK points. I think he played about 25 minutes. I'd probably project him for similar numbers today. It's a much tougher matchup against Toronto, but 3,200 for Robin Lopez. Definitely in play as a value option if he starts again. But yeah, guys, I think we covered everything for both DraftKings and Yahoo today for Tuesday's 7-game slate. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Really appreciate you watching. If you stuck through the whole thing, I do greatly appreciate it. Make sure you hit that like button before you get out of here. Hit that subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell so that way you never miss out on any of my new videos. Also, if you would like, you can check out my Patreon and my Twitter, link down below. Link down below is my Twitter, at DFS by Noah. If you want to give me a follow, I would appreciate it. My Patreon you can check out, see all the exclusive content I have to offer over there. That is linked down below in the description, patreon.com/DFS by Noah. But best of luck tonight, guys. Really appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you tomorrow. Peace.